play as well that's playing or not, but here we are.
Playing.
Okay, good. Hello, good morning, GM, Adam, Ricky. How are you guys?
Hello.
Amazing. Good morning.
Very excited to be here.
Yes,
Very
finally.
So it's been an incredible day and a morning of conversations here at the first Reverse Web3 Comic-Con event. And it's brought us to this moment, which we've been looking for a very long time. So I think, before we actually dive into what we're here for, which is to show people what we've been building and a little bit of what the Macroverse platform is looking like, talking a little bit about where we are right now, what's coming a little bit in the future, and what opportunities there are for people to get involved in all of this. Before we get into that, I realized earlier we haven't really introduced ourselves in the course of all of these conversations. So, Evan Matthews, Adam Martin. Actually, Adam, your name is mine as well.
Oh, mine's just done that again. I'm switching that right now.
Doing that again. And Ricky Ricavina, we are the co-founders of Macroverse. And Ricky, tell us a little bit about you.
Sure, I'll go first. So yeah, I've had a pretty long history in the film industry and the game industry. So working with pretty much the best of the best in film, people like Steven Spielberg and Kathy Kennedy, who had Lucasfilm, Frank Marshall, working on all kinds of things like Jurassic Park and Twister, and that was for many years, earning my stripes, so to speak. And then I got into the game industry, which I was very well suited for, having grown up, built computers, programmed them, etc. And worked for a couple of media companies. Disney was a vice president there and put their whole mobile division together. And then I was at Universal, worked with Insomniac and Naughty Dog on things like Spyro the Dragon and Crash Bandicoots, if anybody remembers those. And then started a couple game companies as well. And most recently, a company called Kung Fu Factory. Although it's not recent, it's very old now. We're 10 years old, acquired by Netmarble, and worked on a bunch of licensed titles, Editor's Choice, 100 million downloads, lots of accolades. But at the end of the day, it's been really about a journey of self-discovery, of business and what I like, interacting with amazing people, going amazing places, and arriving at big destinations, and hence the name Macroverse, and hence who I get to spend my Sunday with, two amazing people like yourself. So that's it in a very small walnut. There's literally years and hours of stories and lots of tales to tell.
That sounds like an ongoing series to bring out later, but
yes. Rickyverse.
Rickyverse, absolutely.
Adamverse.
It's so perfect, exactly.
For me, I've spent the last 20 plus years in physical production in film and TV in LA. So assistant director for a long time now, working on, at the one end of things, kind of Transformers and things like that, through, and then a lot of really great comedy over the last few years. So Barry last year, Dave, a series called Future Man on Hulu, which is a fantastic series called Black Monday on Showtime, which was amazing. So really kind of got to see all these fantastic projects put together from the ground up, and then be kind of an intimate part of, kind of intimately involved with the making of these things and the production of them and bringing them out into the public. Which has been incredibly satisfying and a lot of fun, and just constantly inspiring me, I think, along with other people who work kind of on that side of things, to push and create and do stuff for myself and ourselves, so that we get to be kind of making our own, producing our own and executing on our own vision, as opposed to producing somebody else's vision. For what this is. And that's been, everything Evan and I have been working towards for the last kind of 15 years, and then with Ricky for the last 12 years, and then really together and and forging full steam ahead with Macroverse over the last 2 now. And so very excited. We feel like we've been kind of building towards this now, this reveal and this discussion for really quite a long time. So very excited to be doing it live and with you all now.
Live, we'll do it live. Yeah, I mean, so just to get mushy for a second, I mean, we've all known each other for a long time. It's really a privilege for me to be building this with you guys. I think the quick version of my background is harder to be quick about because I like to say my whole career has just been a series of saying yes and then figure it out. And so, the range of projects and things for me has been everything from, rebranding the Lemley Theaters, which is kind of a famous indie theater chain here in Los Angeles, to creating and producing animation, to making children's books for Target, to working on very high-end interactive, internet experiences, writing, directing, and producing across a bunch of different areas, lots of new media. I'm someone that loves kind of being at the forefront of new things. I'm a classic early adopter. Like, I'm happy to deal with some bugs, to like be there first and figure stuff out. And so, as the three of us have worked together across all these different types of creating content, the common thread is that, we all have a love of story and a love of making things that help ourselves and ultimately other people tell stories and make stories. And, I think the real ambition for Macroverse started with, looking at an industry, and in this case, the comics industry, and realizing that there just wasn't the right thing for what we saw as the future of comics. And so that led to literally, I mean, we had a version of this that we had been noodling on that I actually pitched to Ricky at Kung Fu Factory. We considered building it together back then, 8-9 years ago. It was kind of the very first iteration of this concept. And then, we just kept kind of pushing it forward slowly in the background for a long time, building prototypes, iterating on what this would look like. We had versions of it that kind of felt very much like webtoons, if you're familiar with webtoons and the kind of scrolling format that they have become, kind of famous for. We had versions of it that looked like motion comics because Adam and I were one of the pioneers in early motion comics, and, doing that with Ricky on one of the games, actually the game that we worked together on to start with. So we had lots of different ways of kind of thinking about how to bring this all together, but it kind of fundamentally came back to this source of, there needs to be a digitally native format for comics. Comics are going to have to go digital. We've already seen with webtoons, for example, that the audience for digital comics far eclipses print and traditional, methods of distribution. And so it just felt like the right format for that hadn't been found. And after a lot of these experiments, I can say we found it. We believe we found it. So the format was number one. And number two was, the business model for creators. We are all ourselves creators, and we care deeply about other creators and thinking about, if you're going to make something that you believe is meaningful, that's going to make an impact in the world, that other people are going to want to participate in, consume, receive, however they're going to, react to it. If we want to make something that people love, then the people that make that stuff should reap a lot of the reward for making things that people love. And in the comics industry, that's not always the case. In fact, it's often not the case. And so, we found that those two things were kind of the guiding principles. If we could solve those two things, we felt like we really had something here. And so when we started to feel like we were solving those two things, that's where we came together a couple of years ago and said, this is a company. Who wants to make this company? 3 hands went up, and here we are. So that was kind of where this all came from. And, what we then kind of the missing puzzle piece that now brings us to this moment is the blockchain and this concept of Web3. And I think that the big moment for us is, we had already launched a traditional mobile app. That app is live right now in the app stores. So you can get a sense of, some of what you're going to see today, you can actually go play with in the mobile format as well. But the missing piece, or the kind of light bulb moment, if you will, for us around Web3 was digital comics collectability. And when you think about like that is sort of the missing puzzle piece for why digital comics have not become the same thing that has driven so much of the traditional comics market. There is something beautiful about feeling like I got this, issue of X-Force, 98, or X-Force #1, before anybody else did. I was there first. I was there at the beginning of this. I own this. I have this piece of history, this thing that I, have some attachment to. And, there's all that's existed in the physical world, obviously, forever. And I have my massive comic collection to prove it, for myself personally. But this concept of being able to bring that kind of ownership and collectability to digital comics, when we realized we could do that with blockchain and Web3, that was the moment where we're like, okay, this brings all these things that we've been talking about together and does it in a really elegant way, and does it in a way where not only would I be excited about this content, but I could be really excited about being able to interact with these franchises and worlds in a way that, has never been possible before. And so enough talk about all of that. Let's get into what this actually means and what this actually looks like. And so I'm going to be jumping back and forth between a handful of slides and then also a handful of demos, so that you can get a sense of, what this is and how it all works. So we think of Macroverse as Marvel plus Netflix times blockchain. That equals Macroverse. And what do we mean by that very quickly? Not Marvel necessarily in the sense of superheroes, is what people I think a lot associate with Marvel, but more Marvel in the sense of the history of the company. And so I think the thing that Marvel did more successfully than anyone else is take these core concepts of characters and worlds, connect them in interesting ways that really created a fandom around this universe, and then allowed that to expand into all kinds of different arenas. And so over the course of the history of the company, of course, that's now ultimately become something that permeates every aspect of culture. And frankly, that's what we aim to do as well. Netflix, meaning easy access, distribution to content, being able to just go get what you want when you want it, basically on any screen in front of you, no matter where you are. That's a part of what we're building too. And blockchain enables this collectability wild card, which we're very excited about. And so bringing those three things together, that's who we are.
Hey, one of the things I wanted to say on that slide in particular is just this idea of, I think the way that the three of us think of comics is, we say the future of comics, but we also think of it as the future of the future. And what I mean by that is comics have notoriously been the seed, if you really look at of the tree of entertainment that yields this fruit of movies, of games, of goes on and on, toys, etc., collectibles, and becoming sort of this created by creators for creators to create, is that at the end of the day, it's this really interesting thing about content and being this seed. So I love this idea of creating the future of the future. And even Adam said something about, all of the experiences that he had of creating with other people. And we've been creating together. And now this is getting released to the world so people can create with us. And I think that's, if you recognize the joy that we all have, it's really because I think whenever we are creating, we're the happiest. And so that's what's so great about this platform and what we're creating. It's why it's bankable too, is as long as we stay on that path of, blockchain, collectability, creation, content, seed, happiness, joy, and putting that out into the world, that's what people want to experience. And I think that's what's really an interesting thing. And the last thing I'll just sort of say is we're also, the blockchain component, the light bulb that Evan's really talking about is this aspect of there's so much talk and discussion about making money and investment off of this and if flipping this. And that's not really where we stand with things. We're creating things and content, stories to last for years and decades and longer than that in multiple forms. The seed being here on something that's blockchain backed, so that your mom or your dad or whomever it is can't throw this thing away that you own. But also, that starts to extend in this amazing digital way to creators, so they can keep a record of who's buying their things and who is making something out of their creation, which we'll get into all of that. So I just wanted to interject that.
Love that. Perfect interjection. And I would sum that up with the 2 lines on the slide, which is we are building next generation entertainment franchises. So, we start with comics, but absolutely, if you look at the Venn diagram of our experiences, it should be pretty clear where we're headed with all of this. And that the underpinnings of the technology, is creating the rails for the future of media in general. I think one of the things which we talk about a lot internally is that, the problems that we have to solve to deliver this are not too distinct from the problems that we have to solve to deliver a lot of things for all kinds of media types. And so, I say this a little bit secretly, but live at the same time, which is, we really think of, we love comics. It's the perfect place for us to build this and innovate. And there's this huge industry that really needs this kind of innovation. And at the same time, it's applicable, kind of across the rest of the entertainment landscape. And so, this is our Trojan horse, if you will, our shot across the bow, if you will, for, how we build the future of entertainment. And it's going to start with comics. And so let's get into that. Going from kind of who we are and what we're building, there we are. And there's some companies we've worked with, and there's some stats of stuff that we've done. So you heard about us. But let's talk about the atomic unit of storytelling, and that is characters. So, a lot of what we're going to talk about today is thinking about the fundamental composable layers of telling stories, building stories. And when we talk about comics, when we talk about other media, if you don't love these characters, you're probably not going to stick around for the rest of the story and around for the ride. So when we think about characters in the context of the platform, we're thinking about characters that you fall in love with, characters that you want to spend time with, and in the context of what I'm going to show you right now, characters that you get to say who they are, what role they play in this universe, and how we interact with them going forward. So I'm going to do this in a couple of pieces. We go from here, and now we go into our demo. So let me bring this over. So this is the current Macroverse website right now. I am going to go over to this tab. So while I'm doing the demo, if anything weird starts to happen, Adam and Ricky are going to tell me, because I will no longer be able to see the stream. So here we are on the current Macroverse homepage, which we were able to bring live about a week ago. You can kind of scroll through these different series that are in the first batch that are being released. And actually, there's a wonderful stream with all of our creators from this first batch of series, which we put out yesterday. So if you haven't seen that, go and find that. But each of these franchises are expressed in these different ways. So there's the overall kind of universe or world. And you can see a few that are also coming soon, which we'll talk about later today. And then there are what we call epics, which are collectible digital comics and ultimately other forms of collectible media, within these universes. And so when we go from here to characters, forgive this a little bit of fumbling with how I need to switch between tabs here. But when we go from into characters, switching tabs, we're going to look at a lot of this demo from the point of view of one of our original series, which is called Dead Town. So here is how we think about characters in the context of Macroverse and what we can do on the platform. We want you to create emotional attachments to these guys. So in order to do that, the first thing we started with was this should not just be a slot machine. It should not just be, pull the handle and hope that you get something that you like. but rather you should create your own characters. You should decide, who they are, what they look like, how they function in this world. If you're enjoying the content that we're putting out right now, you might decide that, this hideous zombie met the end as a super fan of the Reverse event. But we have over 1,000 different, things that you can use to fully customize these different characters. You can find just the one that, it speaks to you, not just as in the case of zombies, let's say this may not be your identity, but we're asking you to think about, who could these characters be in the universe of Dead Town, in this, post-apocalyptic neo-noir world that we're building here. So this is live. You can go mint these characters now. You create your characters, and then you bring those characters back to the website, back to the app. And from there, I'm going to switch tabs real quickly. From there, we get into your collection of characters. So think of these as a couple of different things. One is characters that you're going to tell stories about that live in this universe. And secondly, you're going to think about them as elements of the story world and also elements of things that other things can be built on top of. And so one of the things that we try to do in all areas of building this platform is thinking about what are the different use cases and what are the different applications and what are the different experiences that we want to be able to build on top of all of this over time. How do we make these all composable? How do we make them all play with each other as we build these different ecosystems? And so right off the bat, we knew we needed to add some stats and experience and a leveling system to each of these characters. And so you come and find out that each of the ones you've created, has these extra powers, if you will, that allows you to do other things with them. And so, you heard a little bit about Ricky's background as we discussed, what this system should look like. There's kind of a core set of stats. There's a leveling system. There's an experience system. And the way we've built this, and we won't go into the technical details right now, but the way we've built it allows for this to be applied to and then permeated through the whole ecosystem that we're building across the whole platform. So there's some really interesting things that will come from that. Additionally, characters that you create probably should have a name. So, give me a name for this guy. Frank something.
Larry.
Frank Larry.
Oh, Frank Larry. Oh, you will put Frank already. Never mind.
I love Frank Larry.
Let's go with Frank Larry. Double name.
My favorite new zombie.
Generic.
Yeah. let's give Frank a new status. He's not just stumbling through the Macroverse. What is Frank doing today? Oh, come on. We're more creative than this. What is Frank doing today?
So eating out with friends.
Eating out with friends. All right. I love it. How about eating out with fiends?
There we go.
So we'll update Frank's name and status. And, when we now go into this other view, which I'm going to show you, switching the card view, you will see that Frank has been updated and he's here he is eating out with friends. So, switching between these different ways of experiencing the characters, you could look at this more of like your collection of cards that you might be able to do things with, which you will be able to do things with. And then you also find that each of these characters has an inventory. And so inventory items, again, create some additional composable layers, which we can play with across a bunch of different experiences. We can give you new inventory items over time. You can level up over time. All these things are flexible and malleable through the system. And because we're storytelling focused right now, we also want to make sure that you can create stories for these characters. So here, going back to Frank Larry, now a couple things about Frank here. He's wearing this Rug Life hat, so it feels like he's either a little cheeky about something that may have had happened to him, or maybe he's just poking a little fun at the culture here. He's also got this kind of blood-stained scrubs that he was created with, so that suggests either that's someplace that he came from, or maybe something happened to him along the way. But we've got this ability to create a little story about this guy right here. And so give us a title for Frank's story.
Love and Death.
Love and Death. About in a city. Love and Death in Dead Town?
Sure.
Okay, Love and Death in Dead Town. And then we'll just give them a very quick little bio here. Frank fell in love. Then
she bit him.
Oh, then she bit him. Then he died.
That's real love right there.
It's real love. That's real love. Bitten by love. So, all right, his story's been updated. And so you get to, create and collect these things across all of your characters and bring these back to us to develop into other pieces of this franchise. And so part of what you'll see develop on top of everything that you're going to see today is more and more of these tools to be able to seamlessly kind of create stories, submit stories, ultimately see those stories accepted into the canon of these different universes, and then become actual content within those universes, which you as the creator of the character and as the creator of the story will participate in every way that you could participate in that, including fundamentally financially. So that is the character part of what we're building. And again, sort of going back to this atomic unit of storytelling, needing to have great characters. So when you think about each of the franchises that we release on the platform, the opportunity exists to create these rich worlds that you as a participant can play in and not just be a recipient of the story that we're telling or that the amazing creators that we're working with are telling, but also have a way to create your own characters and storylines and ultimately potentially your own entire worlds within these universes, within these franchises. That is something I absolutely love, and we could have a whole conversation just about that. So here's a little sneak peek of some of the character collections that are coming to the platform. Some of you may recognize the GSA, one of the projects that we brought under the Macroverse umbrella. This is from a series which we haven't announced yet, but unlike our friends at Pixel Vault, we will give you a little unreleased information. This is from a series called Aerosol, which will come at some point next year. This is the Bushidos, which some of you will recognize, which we have now officially partnered with. So Bushidos will be coming onto the platform in full, kind of in every way that can be done. And of course, Dead Town, which we were just playing with right now. So just a handful of the character collections. And by the way, there are more that will be showing up on the platform over the next several months. And then, of course, you can see their different, stats and the way they appear as cards. So really fun to start to think about how not just one collection of characters, but multiple collections of characters, even from different worlds, different franchises, have this interconnected system that we can build all kinds of really fun, amazing stuff on top of. And because it's the blockchain, you can also build all kinds of really interesting and crazy stuff on top of. So again, this kind of composability around how this whole system works. So moving on from characters, what's the next thing that builds out these universes? And that is our collection of epics. So epics is our brand name for collectible digital content. Again, starting with collectible digital comics. Do you just want to hear a good story, or would you perhaps like to hear an epic story? I personally will go for the latter. So let's get into epics. This is the thing that we've spent a lot of the last year kind of figuring out and building, and massive shout out to our development team. We're partnered with an incredible development team named Pagsy, and Pagsy's done some amazing things in the space already, but just want to shout out all the hard work and dedication that they have put in to helping us figure this out, because we knew what we wanted to do, but I think Ricky and I at least have done a little coding, but that is way in the background for me at this point. So
way in the background.
The combination of black magic, blood magic, and whatever other kinds of magic have gone into crafting this system is pretty exceptional, and could not give enough credit to the people actually building the tech behind all of this. It's astounding. So let's look at what are epics. One of the things that we have talked a lot about is that digital comics are not just an analog, is not a digital version of an analog experience. If you remember when the initial iPhone came out, all of the icons on the original iPhone, were kind of what people call in the design world skeuomorphic, meaning that, everything kind of looked like a digital representation of an analog thing. And I think we see that, interestingly, in every big technology shift. The initial inclination is to do some form of that, to say, this is how we recognize it in the last version that we are comfortable with and familiar with. Let's just kind of put it inside a digital package and, figure out how to do that. And initially that, kind of makes sense. But at some point, you have to start to think about, what does this new medium do uniquely well? And so this becomes a combination of the format of the reading experience, the consuming experience of this content, but also, what is a comic book? Well, who says that a comic book has to be, this tall and this wide? Like, the whole reason that comics are even the size and shape that they are is because they need to fit in a spinner rack on a drugstore, 7-Eleven, station when they cost 10 cents. That's literally the reason they are that size. And so, when comic stores came along, there was no reason that they had to stay that size, but that just was the size that they are. And so, when we go from analog to digital, what we've seen is, well, this is what a comic book looks like. So let me show you a picture of that on an iPad. And then, now we've got this wonderful technology called PDF. So you can kind of like flip through it. And that's cool. It's amazing to have those things with us at all times. But if you look at the rest of publishing, I think it's kind of interesting to think that we no longer have a physical representation of a book in an e-reader format. You no longer are flipping a page in a print book. Instead, we've now moved to, what's the best way to consume this content? What's the best way to read a book in a digital format? It's not a scan of that page that you're flipping through. And so, this is an area that I am very passionate about, is, figuring out what are the things that are unique and that work uniquely well when we move into a new format, into a new medium. And so our solution to this, what is a digital comic? It is not something that looks like a traditional comic. It is something that is custom crafted to do the thing that it needs to do, that has an experience layer, that does something that we've never been able to do before, and brings all of those elements together in a unique and interesting way. And so I will now show you, what does a Macroverse epic actually look like, in just one moment. So this is our solution to this. This is what we call an epic tile. So all of the content for this series lives in this tile, in this interactive experience. And so this represents a particular edition of this storyline in Deadtown. And within this tile, there are some things that we can do. So right within this NFT, this is actually the NFT itself. So you'll see this on OpenSea, you'll see it on any other marketplaces, you'll also see it on our platform. Within this tile itself, you can start to interact with it. You can find out more about it. What is this? What is it about? What edition do I have compared to a different edition? How exclusive or rare is this edition? In this case, 1 out of every 100 gets this particular treatment, gets this particular rarity and style to it. These are interactive, meaning that they can be updated and upgraded over time with new features and benefits, new episodes. It becomes this dynamic experience around this thing that you now own as a collectible. So how many seasons are currently in this interactive tile? How many episodes are currently included in this edition? Are there extra features? We can, attach extra features to this particular edition as opposed to a different particular edition. Are there any rewards associated with having this particular edition? And could those rewards be added to over time? The answer to that is yes. So there are lots of different ways we'll be able to use this system, this interactive system, to create both the collectible side and the interactive side. Being able to make this accessible wherever you might find it, based on the fact that it lives on the blockchain, based on the fact that we can, provide this provenance, this ownership, that's collectability that we've never been able to before. Tell me a little bit more about the series. Show me what episodes are currently included in this particular season. Oh, there's a new episode coming soon. That's good to know. Maybe I want to see a little bit about what this series looks like, and is it something that's kind of up my alley? And so I can get a little preview of the series right from within this interactive tile. I haven't bought anything yet. I haven't decided whether or not I'm in, but I want to get a sense of it. Give me a little taste of the story. And so as we do that, you can go, oh yeah, I love this, I want more, and then choose to collect this edition. Also, we'll be able to show you who are the creators. Give me a high-res version of the cover art. If I want to, once I own it, I can download that cover art. I can share this. I can go, see it on OpenSea. So, lots that we can do in this format, in this interactive edition of these epics. And so we want to give you something that feels alive and dynamic, that has more in common with at least has some more in common with a game or with a streaming experience than just a static image that then has some other thing associated with it. So like putting the whole thing in one package is what we've really been after, for the entire time that we've been building this out. And so that is something I've been so very badly wanting to show, and yay, we just did it. So that is what the tile looks like. And then let me show you what that looks like as we start to get into collections. Oh, I'm skipping ahead. Still on the demo. All right. One more thing to switch real quick. So yeah, I think the ability to put all that together, to me is one of the kind of magic tricks of this whole thing that we've been working on. So going from there into what does this look like when we start to see it come to life on the platform itself. So moving on from there, you'll see in this collection, so talking about Dead Town, here are all of the epics in this particular series. In this case, season 1 of Dead Town. A little cat coming out of the bag here with some of the additions that will be available when this launches. And you can see that within the collection, if I don't currently own this, I can see that same preview. If I do currently own this, I can actually jump right into reading the series. And let me show you a little taste of what that looks like as well. We talked a little bit about this yesterday. The key thing about the reading experience or the comics experience is that it adapts to whatever device you're looking at it on. So if you are on a desktop device or a tablet device, you're going to have a little piece of what I'm going to show you right now. If you're on a mobile device, you actually get a custom crafted version of the same story, really built for mobile. So if you go onto the live app right now on your mobile device, you'll see exactly what that looks like. This is a way of creating adaptive content that gives you kind of the best experience no matter where you look at it. And so, again, this kind of being the desktop version of it, this shows you a little piece of what our top story looks like. So, we've created this way of moving through a graphic novel or a comic story that stays true to what the art form is. It's still comics. It's not, trying to be something different, but it gives you a way of, moving through the world where you're having this much more cinematic experience. And because it can adapt to whatever format you're looking at it on, whatever device you're looking at it on, you get this much richer, more immersive experience of the whole thing. So going on from there, our first collection of epics is coming later this year, actually sooner rather than later this year. And we're going to be talking more specifically about those details actually later this afternoon. So if you want to know more about the collection and kind of the mechanics of the collection, all the drop details, all of that is going to be coming up towards the end of the day at 5:30 p.m. Pacific. So if you like kind of the look and feel and the vibe of all of this, you'll be able to get your hands on them later this year. And again, all those details 5:30 Pacific today. So this is the first collection of epics, and that's a little bit of what that looks like on the platform. So moving on from there, all of this ties together in this framework that we think of as Macroverse worlds. And so these are the kind of umbrellas for what we think of as kind of Web3 enabled entertainment franchises. And it really is the way that we think. So, you've got, Ricky coming from film and gaming. You've got Adam coming from film and television. You've got me coming from kind of all of these different places and comics and creating all these different types of media experiences. And so when you tie all those things together, you start to get this sense of these are all expressions of concepts and stories inside of a world, inside of an umbrella or a container. And so inside these worlds, we have both characters and epics, which we've just talked about. But you'll see over the next year a lot of expansion on top of these concepts. So whether it's interactive experiences like gaming, or it's ways of other creators coming and playing inside of these sandboxes, there are a lot of ways that you'll be able to experience and express yourself within these different worlds. And so it starts with giving each of these franchises, each of these worlds, a home on the platform. And so I'm going to show you a little taste of what that looks like as well, as I navigate once again to the correct tab.
I love all the logos too. As we're sort of demoing it for the first time, we see all these things in pieces, and there's just so much love and attention and care and detail that's been put into the fonts and the colorization, even going from kind of, it's pretty interesting that it's like Wizard of Oz, right? We have this dead town, our very first series is black and white, and then we open into this world of Technicolor with all of these amazing new series. It's just, and some of that's by design, some of that's planned, but some of that's just literally in the subconscious of Eben, of Adam, of myself, but hopefully the passion and the care and the love is just really come through. But it's funny because I just haven't seen it. I've seen it in pieces for so long. So seeing it whole as a whole in its wholeness is beauty. It's beautiful. It's holy, very holy, holy and holy at the same time.
I'll take it. So think of these worlds, especially if you're a creator or if you're a fan that wants to kind of dive deeply. Think of this as like home base for this universe. This could be the Star Wars universe. It could be the Dead Town universe. It could be the Digital Pools universe. Alex, I see you in chat. So think of each of these as, kind of the home base for these different franchises, and yet built with a way of connecting and creating connections between all of them. So it's a different take on the shared universe concept, but it has a lot of the same abilities and applications over time. So this is a world page. Within this world page, you can explore and dive into the characters that we saw that live in this world. You can move over into the epics that exist in this world, and giving you kind of pieces of that. But I want to show you kind of just what this starts to look like. And if you're a creator or if you're someone that wants to kind of explore, just a level of richness that can be explored here. So you can immediately see kind of what are all the different things that exist or have been created in the world, obviously learning more about it. And then this becomes kind of a way of, sharing with the people that are most invested in every sense of that word in the expansion of and in the success of this world. Gives them a way to really see at a glance and very easily start to interact with, like, what are all the different things that are happening in this universe? In this case, talking about the characters that we looked at, or the first greenlit story that happened in this world, which shout out to Lady Valor. Hers was the first story that went into production as its own piece of content within the world of Deadtown. We can kind of bring you into the process and bring you behind the scenes about how you interact with all the different components in the ecosystem, from creating an avatar to learning how to tell a story to getting produced and becoming part of the canonical expression of this universe. What are the different types of epics and, in this case, the different comics and seasons that can be explored here? Who are the people that are, making this content? And then, if this is a world that currently has characters, then we can explore those characters right from here, start to dive deeply into, what are all the different characters that exist in this world. If it's a world that has stories that have been created by the people that have those characters, we can start to surface those stories. And we've got some tools to help bring kind of the most relevant ones, forward. And then we want to invite you to find doorways into the other worlds that exist on the platform as well. Tell you a little bit more about, kind of what's going on across the collection and across the world, and really create this just really rich, dynamic home base for all these different universes that can exist across the Macroverse, and that will ultimately build on top of. And so, shout out to the GSA holders out there. I see you, Tiny. We'll be able to just kind of seamlessly switch between these different experiences as you move across the platform. And so, that is a little bit of what the world experience looks like. You've seen it with Deadtown. I want to just show you a little preview of how rich it starts to feel when you see this same system applied to some of the other series, because it's actually pretty awesome, pretty gorgeous. So here we are, kind of a world page for Hex 11, a world page for Darkland. You just get a sense of just how immersive this can start to feel as this content continues to get built out and developed over time. So that is the world's experience and the world's content. And this is all coming, parts of it exist already on mobile. This is all coming multi-device, again, it will adapt to kind of wherever you pick it up. And one of the things that, we'll say, we've been holding a lot of this back, and now you're going to see a lot of it happen kind of more publicly. The building in public part of this is going to start, becoming actually a little more prevalent. And so you'll see the existing mobile app right now and how that works. You'll see the release of this platform over the next few months and how that all works. And then you'll see it'll be about 6 months for it to all come together into one seamless experience, no matter what device you pick it up on. But all that tooling is being built and put in place where literally you're just getting an optimized version of these experiences, no matter where you come in from. And that's our goal, is to create this really seamless experience across everything. So mobile, tablet, web, no matter where you find it, that's where we'll be. So where are we now? We're in phase 1, which is launching original projects on the platform, launching this first collection of epics. And then, we've got about 40 more series that are currently in some stage of development, from either finished and ready to go to very close to early in, development or production. It's a whole spectrum there, but there's a lot more content coming just from us. And we're very excited for you to see all of that. But I've been waiting my whole life to say this. There is one more thing.
I love it.
So what happens next? We need you. The one more thing is you. the community, the creators out there. We need you to help come and build this platform with us. We're putting the tools in place. We're creating this infrastructure. But for Macroverse to become the full version of itself, this was not intended to just be our plaything. It was intended to be yours as well. And so as we look towards that future over the next year, we're going to start bringing partner projects initially onto the platform. So that means if you are a collection of characters that already exists, we can onboard you to Macroverse, give you our stats and inventory system, our storytelling system, and kind of give you new superpowers for your existing collection. We can help develop stories and universes around those characters. We've done this with a few Bushidos and GSA, most notably at this moment.
And more to come.
And more to
be announced. We're not announcing everything today, obviously.
This is true. More to be announced. And if you want to create epic editions of either existing comics material that we have become very good at adapting to this format, that's an opportunity. If you want to create new content that comes into this epic edition format, that's an opportunity. So we are bringing on partner projects really starting now. In fact, we've already started. So if you want to be in that first cohort, that first wave of partner projects, it's time to reach out and have that conversation. And you can email us directly at platform@macroverse.com. And we can start that conversation about how to bring your partner project, your partner collection onto the platform. And then the thing that gets very exciting is that late in the year next year, this will all become open. And so becoming an open, permissionless platform for creating worlds, publishing content, creating these different types of characters, tying all these things together, will just be a bigger and bigger kind of expanding ecosystem where the way that we're building this will allow all these things to play together across the Macroverse. You can carve out your own universe, you can play in other people's universes, and it just becomes this big, open, rich experience for storytellers and storytelling, and those of us that are just dang fans of this stuff. So
also, Eben, I'll add, and to just sort of steal from our friends at Pixel Vault, we can't reveal what open platform means in its totality. So Evan gave you the pieces that we're talking about now, and there'll be a lot more that we reveal in terms of platform and technology and the types of mediums that we actually are creating in, with, and for with you.
Yeah, I mean, we are actually just scratching the surface here. So as excited and as cool as all this is, it is actually just scratching the surface. So there is a lot more to come, but these fundamental building blocks, I mean, it's something we've been working on what feels like for a long, long time. I can probably say for Adam and Ricky, I know I can say for myself, I mean, to me, this is the culmination of all of my experiences brought to life in one package. And it's, I personally could not be more excited about it. And I really can't wait to see, the other collaborators and creators that, see this and it resonates with them, and, reach out and get in touch. So I skipped over the last little bit. If you are, again, if you're interested in coming on as a partner project, reach out right now. And if you want to be in the first cohort for early access when the platform does become open, you should also get in touch with us at the same email address. So platform@macroverse.com for both of those. And we'll be, kind of working with you to figure out where the best place and what the best time frame to start getting stuff onto the platform will be. So that is my demo and presentation for you today. We are going to talk more. Thank you. We are going to talk more about timing. Again, very specifically about the first release of the first collection of Epic Editions on the platform. And that is going to be at 4:30 p.m. Pacific time at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time today for all the drop details. At 4:30 p.m., preceding the drop details, we're going to show you some of the additional content that's coming to the platform next year. So we've got the first reveal of several of the additional series that you got to look forward to coming next year as well. There's a couple last things I want to say, and then we can have a bit more of a free-flowing conversation here. One of the guiding principles for all of this is that everything we do, as you've seen, is designed to have a layer of interoperability and designed to build out this much bigger and broader ecosystem. The other thing that is important for people to know, without specifically saying exactly what it is that there are kind of two other fundamental things that we are thinking about all the time. One is that everything you do is going to have some sort of implication inside the ecosystem. So if you choose to do a certain, if you choose to create characters with certain traits, that will have an impact down the road throughout the ecosystem. If you choose to collect certain editions of the different epics, that will have an impact across the ecosystem. So, your level of participation has an impact as we continue to build this out, whatever that looks like. And so, there are lots of ways that we are building both tools and thinking about, how to make that really meaningful. But people talk about, reward stacking. That's an inherent part of what we're building. Everything you do, the more you participate, the more you will get out of everything that we're building. And that's an intentional part of the design. We want to build something that is an engine for super fans, an engine for creators to connect with super fans, and then to provide great experiences and content for people that want to participate at every level across the spectrum, from very casual to very, very engaged. But covering all those bases is an intentional part of the design of this entire system. So that is that's what we got for you at the moment. It didn't take as long as I thought it might, but I'm glad we got to show everything.
Well done.
Yeah. Thank you.
So excited.
Thank you. I have been waiting for that Steve Jobs moment for a while.
And it's better than a Steve Jobs moment because it's not about this product, it's about people, which is the best.
It's about people. Absolutely. Yeah.
I love that.
100%. Anything that I didn't cover that you feel like deserves another minute of attention here?
I feel like
nailed
it. Yeah.
I think the only thing I think is worth re-mentioning is I think there is such a focus on the creators and the storytellers and the like that side of this thing that we've been building. We're well aware that is a relatively small segment of people, and there is actually a ton of stuff for collectors, fans, people who are just into the artwork. Some of the other things we'll be talking about, revealing later in terms of some of the artists involved with this, who have their own pretty rabid fan bases for things. Like we are very consciously, yes, creating this thing for creators, but very, very much servicing the collectors, yes. Knowing that's going to be the majority of people. And I think we as creators ourselves, we get lost in the creative side of things, and it's like, oh yeah, this is in service of this larger fan base for the things we're doing.
Yeah, it's platforms within platforms, right? And I think one of the things that maybe not completely comes through, somewhat by design, but we probably don't have to tease again as much as our friends at Pixel Vault have. But we've signed up so many different projects, and we're working with so many different creators. We are literally on the level of a mid-size and growing publishing company with all of the projects that we have going, some of which you can see in various bits and pieces all across the land, and they cover and span every genre. It's every type of writer, every type of pronoun, every gender. There's so much different support for literally the world in these worlds, from the people and who we're talking to and how we're treating some of these series. As our intention, and we always talk about this, it doesn't really get talked about here, but who's going to create the next Harry Potter or the next Walking Dead or the next Game of Thrones or the next Ozark or the next Breaking Bad. We think we have some of those from some of the creators that we're working with, and we know that we'll have more. And you can sort of see some of these really amazing streaming services out there, and who has certain content and what their taste is, whether it's Apple or Amazon or Netflix or whomever. And we have this amazing opportunity to work with these creators in what we talked about before, the seed form. And everybody gets to collect it and experience it and take part of it and be a creator or learn about being a creator if that's what they so choose. But at the end of the day, we are creating a couple of different platforms and ecosystem, so to speak, that is so content rich with things that are going to melt your brain and make you happy and joyful and excited to share and show it with other people. That's what I think at the end of the day, we're not showing a lot of that because we're concentrating on the platform reveal, but that's more exciting and more to come that everybody will see soon.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think, this, very much about the technology and the platform, but none of it matters if we're not telling great stories on top of all of that. And, that is the thing we endeavor to do ourselves as creators. And it's the thing we look for in the content that we're, putting together with other creators. I think, I like to talk about our content approach as, kind of the HBO of comics, if you will. And the reason I use HBO as opposed to something like Netflix. So it's, we've got mixed metaphors here because we say Macroverse is Marvel plus Netflix times blockchain, really pointing to the accessibility and kind of the worldwide audience that, we're kind of creating the path for here. But the content taste of HBO to me says everything is really, really high caliber. So you may not love every show on HBO, but there's an expectation that it's all really good. Like they've built that content brand that says, everything we do is very, very high quality. And that's the bar that we, want to continue to set for all the content that comes out on the platform. So you may not resonate with every series, you may not resonate with every world, but we're absolutely determined that you go like, okay, not my cup of tea, but damn, it's really well made. It's really good. Like, and so as we bring out more and more content, that's sort of the kind of indistinguishable taste factor to a degree, is being able to help bring those things to the foreground, put a spotlight on them, help, creators that maybe haven't had that spotlight, put on them in this way before. And getting back to some of the things that we said earlier, what's really important to me is that we go about this in a way that very intentionally ups the ante for the level of compensation and reward and kind of the long-term value that the people that are at the source of these things are able to capture. And then the magic trick that is now only possible because of this technology is to allow the people that have gone on that journey with the creative team to also capture a piece of that value. And that's the thing that's just never been possible before. And to me is so exciting about how these things all play together.
Yeah. The last things I'm reminded of is I didn't think of it until literally just this moment, but verse and reverse, the powerful, that amazing line from Dead Poets, the powerful play goes on and you may contribute a verse, right? And that poetry of that we've all seen from that kind of a movie, everybody gets to participate. But going back just a layer is taste. At the end of the day, it does come down to taste and how people feel about what we choose and who we are working with and who's coming and who we're attracting. Taste kind of dictates everything. It's such a fine line and a difficult thing to tell, but you can sort of see when people leave companies, whether it's a Steve Jobs that's no longer with Apple, unfortunately, or Netflix loses some of this key content that they work so hard to build a library of. That taste of what people love and are attracted to and really feel at the end of the day, that's what you're going to trust our platform and the people that we work with to bring and deliver. And that's what's really exciting over the next couple of years to build.
100% agree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, you know what? We're actually a little done early on this panel, so let's wrap up a little bit early. I am so glad we finally got to show this to everybody, and I'm sure there'll be a lot more conversation to have. We are going to be after the details on the first Epics drop. We're going to be hanging out in the Macroverse Discord for a little while at the end of the event today. So if anybody wants to pop in and say hi or ask some specific questions, that's a great time to do that. We'll all be there, to have that conversation and just hang out and have fun. So join us there at the end of the day for sure. In the meantime, I'll just do a little quick rundown of what's coming up for the rest of the Reverse event today. We've got another batch of incredible panels coming up and conversations coming up. So after this at 12:30, we're talking to the artist Griff about his project, the Leonard Project. And if you don't know Griff's work, you're going to want to discover that and tune in for that because it is absolutely astonishingly fantastic. Little secret for everyone coming on the stream: prepare yourself for me to be bugging you to be making stuff with us and for us, because we're going to know you now. So Spotlight on the Leonard Project. After that, we've got a really cool conversation, and one that I am really looking forward to, which is bringing some established writers and producers from traditional Hollywood into a conversation with some people who are also bridging the gap between Hollywood and Web3 for kind of a conversation of the promise and the ethos of all this versus the kind of reality of what the Hollywood system looks like right now, where those things are, kind of challenging and in opposition, and yet where those opportunities might be, as things move forward. So I think that's going to be a really interesting conversation. After that, we're having a spotlight on Women of Mystery and the Uppercut Training Club from our friends at Jump Cut Media, some of whom you met yesterday. And then another really interesting conversation. A lot of people in this space have created comics, and we talked to Huxley yesterday. We talked to Pixel Vault this morning. Lots of projects have kind of chosen comics as one of the ways that they're telling stories or developing their own lore and worlds. So this afternoon at 3:30 Pacific, we're having a conversation about good old-fashioned comics publishing. So almost in direct opposition to everything we just talked about.
That old chestnut, bringing that old chestnut out.
That old chestnut. But I think it's interesting. So one of my very good friends is the publisher of a company called 12 Gauge Comics. It's where we put out the Boondock Saints graphic novels, and so he's agreed to come in and have a chat with a few other people from the indie publishing side, and including our own Jason Brubaker, to just talk about what does the world of publishing look like. And I actually suspect you may come away from that conversation being even more bullish on what we're building here. But I think it's a good thing for people to understand kind of how it works, what you need to know, and when you do decide to go down the traditional publishing route, if you do, kind of what that looks like, and what it might take. So we're having that conversation at 3:30 Pacific. At 4:30, we talked about this will be the first sneak peek at some of the new projects launching on Macroverse next year, which is also going to be very exciting to start to reveal. And then we wrap up at 5:30 with all the drop details on the first collection of epics, and then party time in Discord. So that is the rest of the schedule for the day. If you enjoyed this, presentation and what we're building, please share it with people. We just want people to know, what this is and that this opportunity is out there, especially as we look towards the first batch of projects that we will be onboarding, and more towards the open side of the platform. Really, now is the time to reach out. So I just want to underscore that again, that the bandwidth is starting to get stretched. So if you want to be in those cohorts, we would like to have those conversations as soon as you're ready. And so I'll wrap up there, and Adam and Ricky, as always, a extreme pleasure in every way. And there's lots more to come.
Let's do it again in 20 minutes.
Let's do it again in 20 minutes. See you shortly.